And then just finally, I guess from the retained list, the one final talking point is Janoi Donacien, who clearly has been, again, much like others we've talked about, has never let Town down when called upon. Always been the consummate professional. Spent most of last season injured after starting the season as the starting right back. They say he's training with the squad ahead of a successful 24-25 campaign, AJ. But my reading of that, and tell me if you agree, is that they feel there's a duty of care to him to help him get fit, and then he will be departing as well in due course.
Yeah, did we touch on Cameron Burgess there? Did that just?
Well, just only in that was expected. I don't think there's a lot to say around Cameron Burgess.
Right.
Would you disagree? You're a man who has to say right everything.
I would imagine there could be a contract offer longer than the 1 year coming up his way. Would be the only thing I'd add onto that one. In terms of Donacien, it's a really interesting one in a way because the way it's been phrased has definitely created some question marks. I do think it probably points to a Carl Edwards-esque situation of we have a duty of care and we're going to have him train in our top class facilities to get him back up to speed because he's been really loyal to us and he deserves that, and then he'll have the freedom to find a new club. The other argument you can make with it is that Town's depth on the right is not great at the moment. When you look at Axel's been the player who's finished the season there, a natural centre-back. Will be interesting to see what his role is going to be in the Premier League next year, whether he's going to be, I mean, obviously he can cover both positions, but what his predominant one is going to be. Harry Clark, again, we'll have to wait and see what the extent of his kind of time on the sidelines is after this Achilles surgery. I don't think Achilles surgery is an easy one to get over. So I'd imagine that could be fairly lengthy, but we'll have to wait and see with that. And then you obviously lost Brandon Williams, who's gone back to Manchester United. So that leaves Axel as the only right back there, as a player who isn't really a natural right back. So potentially there is the argument to be made that having that cover there is important. I was really impressed of the very few glimpses that we got of Donacien in the Championship in those games. The Sunderland one stands out to me, and Soak as well. Thought he did really well. But realistically, I'd say it probably is pointing to a move away. And if he can sort his fitness out, which has obviously been the big issue in the last 12 months, don't see why a Championship club would not want to pick him up.
I just add a little bit of love for Janoi Donacien as well. We've talked quite a bit about Caden Jackson. Absolutely the same. He's had the same sort of Ipswich Town career arc in many ways. Arrived in the same summer from Paul Hurst. I mean, if you remember, signed him from Accrington on loan initially because there was kind of this international red tape around his work permit that was really weird. And then by the time they could finally sign him permanently in the January, which they were committed to doing, he was immediately loaned back from whence he came to Accrington, which is not the best of starts. And he's kind of had his ups and downs, and was another one that kind of completely rejuvenated under McKenna. I think people forget that he started every league game for about 18 months after McKenna first took over, and that relationship he had down the right side with Wes Burns, with their little handshake celebration, and he was such a key part of getting the McKenna era off to the flying start it was. And it was only when sort of Harry Clark came in that January transfer window that his chances dropped a little bit. But again, much like Caden, someone who's never sulked, has always been sort of talked up as being a really good character behind the scenes. There were some sad moments. I remember going to games during the COVID season and he wasn't even in the squad, wasn't even on the bench. And we'd see him sort of sat up in empty stands with his hood pulled over his head in the middle of winter. And it would have been very easy for him and Caden to have fallen out of love with it. And I'm sure there were some dark points for both of them, but I think they're both really, credit to themselves and a proof to other players out there that, if you keep your head down, if you keep your attitude right, that things can turn in football. And both of them have left their mark at Ipswich Town and will be wished well.
Are you saying, Stu, there's definitely no chance of a fifth period of Donacien?
I'd say it's highly unlikely. I know it's slightly ambiguous with the statement saying that it will come back to train, but it feels like a sort of a duty of care situation for me. That we'll get you right, and I as much as he's a really solid, does what it says on the tin, know what you're going to get out of him. His super strength, we talk about McKenna kind of finding the super strengths in players, is a one-on-one defender. Not many wingers get past him, and there's an argument that maybe there are times against some of the trickiest of Premier League wingers that might be needed. But I just think the injuries that he's had last year, and he's had the surgery, groin adductor surgery, and had a few sort of setbacks from that. I would say that he's probably reached the end of the road, it feels like to me, sadly.
Okay.